At the Dutchman's deathbed, there were only two people present. The Dutchman, when he first moved in with Julia, stayed in a small rental, sort of an apartment, behind Julia's home. But as his physical condition deteriorated, she moved him into a room in back of her bakery where she could keep close watch on him. And one morning, very early when she went to work, the Dutchman was failing. So she left to go find a doctor. And as she left on the street, she met two men, Gideon Roberts and Dick Holmes. Now, Gideon Roberts was an intimate friend of the Dutchman. Dick Holmes was with Roberts. He was only a casual acquaintance of the Dutchman. But because of his presence with his dear friend Gideon Roberts, the Dutchman simply accepted Dick Holmes as being a reliable person. So Julia asked Roberts and Holmes to sit with the Dutchman while she went for the doctor. Well, she was delayed 2 hours. The doctor was delivering a baby. And by the time she got back, the Dutchman had died. Well, in the 2 hours that Julia was gone, the Dutchman made what we call his deathbed revelation to Holmes and Roberts. In telling about the mine, he told Dick Holmes, he said, "Under my bed in a miner's candle box is what I have left of the ore out of the mine." He said, "I made 3 caches back there. I didn't trust banks. I made 3 caches of gold back in the mountains. A large cache and 2 small caches. But," he said, "I went back later and I packed one of the small caches out. It's what I've been living on all these years." And he said, "What's left of it is in a miner's candle box under my bed." He said, "Dick, get it out." Holmes got it out. It was heavy. The Dutchman told him to open it. And when he did, Holmes could scarcely believe his eyes. There was nearly 50 pounds, 48.5 pounds actually, of incredibly high-grade ore in that candle box, richer than anything Holmes had ever dreamed of. And Holmes was somewhat of a prospector. Well, the Dutchman tried to direct Holmes back to the mine. The problem was he was not able to use place names because it was only in the Dutchman's later years that they were attaching names to the mountains and the canyons in Superstition Mountain. So he couldn't say LaBarge Canyon, Boulder Canyon, or Peters Canyon. He didn't know the names. He could only describe what the country looked like as he traveled. And in one of the roughest pieces of wilderness terrain on the North American continent, it simply wasn't good enough. They never found the mine. But Holmes sold the gold to Goldman's store. Leo and Charlie Goldman ran a mercantile store on the northeast corner of Central and Washington in Phoenix. Well, that 48.5 pounds of gold had to have an assay to determine its value for the purchase. They took it to an assayer named Joe Porterie and assayed that ore at $110,000 a ton when gold was $20.64 an ounce. That would be a couple $1 million a ton in today's gold values. Holmes kept several pieces of the gold that he later had made into jewelry. In fact, some of the gold that Goldman's bought was acquired by a Phoenix jeweler named Rosenzweig that cut a number of the best pieces into jewelry settings. And a jeweler named John Levy in San Francisco acquired some of the ore and made jewelry, including a gold matchbox that later became quite famous. It was the largest piece of jewelry, so the most representative piece of jewelry, most representative of the wealth of the Dutchman's gold. And I've seen 8 pieces of what we call Dutchman jewelry that still exist here in Arizona. It's all the same stuff. It is all incredibly rich.
Thank you for watching this episode of Mysteries of the Superstition Mountains.